I recently did a video that looked at different types of seeds and which ones are best to grow in a cold climate. And there was a lot of questions about more options for tomatoes and peppers. So today's video, we're going to look at tomatoes and pepper varieties that you can grow in a cool climate. Put this into perspective, I'm in a zone 3 up here in Canada, which is the equivalent to approximately an American zone 4, aka cold AF. Now, the variety you choose for a tomato or pepper, despite the fact that you start them early indoors, can be then make it or break it when it comes to a harvest. If you've ever grown a bell pepper and not seen any results, it's the variety. If you've ever had a tomato year that's poor, it's the variety. And this is coming from someone whose favorite variety, being brandy wines, is an exceptionally long season tomato that does not always perform. So if you're a beginner gardener and you signed on to the classics, if you will, when it comes to things like peppers and tomato varieties, you are going to be unfortunately disappointed if you have a cooler summer. I have a funny feeling that we're going to have a very long, cool spring again, followed up by an incredibly cool summer. And so because of that, I want to give you guys varieties that you can grow in these conditions and still be successful. I'm not asking you to trash or throw out the tomatoes or the peppers that you know and love as being longer season varieties. No, that's not the case. Keep those around, but make sure you are supplementing with these in some way in your garden, because it's going to make a big difference as to whether or not you're having tomato sandwiches and jalapeno poppers come August, September. So here's my top list when it comes to early maturing and cold tolerant varieties. What I mean by this is that they can do the cooler nights in particular, along with the cooler soil temperatures that we typically find. We're going to go over some things a little bit later in this video in regards to some of those more exotic, longer growing degree day varieties and how you shouldn't be sinking them deep into the soil profile. And if you're new to this channel, surprise, I don't advocate for planting up to the first true leaf or, ripping all the leaves off and sinking a tomato a foot or two. And it actually has a lot to do with soil temp and cold climates specifically. But like I said, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Okay, so number 1 is the subarctic plenty. These tomatoes are known to set fruit and flower even in the cooler nights. This means that you can plant them outdoors as soon as your last frost date hits. You can get them outside, so usually May long. Whereas the contrary to that, some of these more exotic plants, I actually constantly do tell people to wait until the nighttime temps are above 10 degrees Celsius. And this at times could mean middle to late mid-June, which is obviously less than ideal. But these subarctic plenties will fruit and flower just fine on those colder nighttime temps. Next up is early girl. And I think that this one is probably the most commonly used one. And it is, as the name implies, it is an early producer. Needs somewhere around 50 days. Some of them can get up to 60, but between 50 and 60 is around where they land. Now, if you're probably wondering, what does that 50 to 60 day symbol mean on the packet? Well, it doesn't actually mean total days to harvest. So if you start them now, you're not going to be harvesting in 50 to 60 days. No, it's not the case. What it does mean, though, is if you were to start them in, say, March, April, from the time you put them outdoors into their permanent conditions, that is 50 day when the 50-day countdown starts. So that means you're going to land for harvest with an early girl. Say you put them out June 1st, because again, these are cold tolerant plants. We can get away with some of those cooler nights. Say we put it out on June 1st, we can expect to harvest from this plant somewhere around mid to late July into August. But these plants also are most likely to deteriorate and disintegrate into nothingness usually late August, because they don't do too well with those really high temps. But that's not a bad thing, particularly if you intend to do a dual crop. So say you want to get your broccoli or your cauliflower, or your cabbage in, your Brussels sprouts to have a fall harvest or an early winter harvest. Well, then this is the perfect plant to put in that position. Next up is the glacier tomato. Now this is around the 55-day mark. And these are somewhere between your classic beefsteak and cherry tomato. They kind of land around plum to Roma sized tomato. So they're not particularly large, but they are notorious for being good with cooler temps, both within the soil and ambiently. So that means if you are growing in ground and not in a raised bed or a container, meaning cooler soil conditions, then this is ideal. The Manitoba. This is actually a variety that was designed for Canadians. And as the name implies, it was developed for a classic Manitoba type summer. And if you've never heard of Winnipeg called Winterpeg at times, then that's your sign. It's usually called Winterpeg because it is constantly cold, blizzarding, and snowy there, even in the middle of June sometimes. Now, these guys kind of show up at the same size as that of the subarctic plenties, as well as those early girls. However, I do find and have had people report back to me that the yields are much higher out of this Manitoba tomato than that of those two. So it is really well kind of clocked into our climates. Now, Tiny Tims are the variety that is best served if you're looking for cherry tomatoes. And these Tiny Tims, keep in mind that they are a dwarf and they are a determinant. So they don't get particularly big either. They don't need to be staked or trellised in any way, shape, or form. And they do really well in containers. So they're not like your classic sweet millions or something like that. But then again, I don't have a lot of cherry tomato examples to give you because I do find cherry tomatoes just in general tend to produce relatively quickly. Now, here are some additional tips when it comes to growing tomatoes in cooler climates. Number one is that this list is not exhaustive. So there are lots of other options out there. And to determine what option you want to go with, or if an option you're looking at is ideal for your climate, there are some things you can see on the packaging. For example, that days to harvest. If it lands somewhere between 50 to 60 days, that's a good sign that's going to be undoubtedly going to produce in our climate. If you see something that's 80 to 90, 100, 110 days, that's where you can get a little bit nervous. So 80 to 90 is where your classic tomato lands in. And these are the ones that tend to produce low or have lower yields or poor performance in a cooler summer. They're also the ones that take a long time to ripen. So they're often the ones that you're picking green, bringing indoors, and then allowing to ripen off the vine inside. Nothing wrong with this. It's just that's the reality of these plants. When you start getting into 100, 110, 120, that's when you kind of want to get nervous because these are ones that you undoubtedly cannot put outdoors if it is below 10 degrees Celsius at night. These are ones that you absolutely do not want to sink that root ball into that cooler soil that's lower down in that soil system. You want to plant that root ball as close to the surface as possible. And you want to make sure that you're mulching to keep a lot of heat into that space. And then on top of that, these are ones that you're going to probably have to consider either covering with frost cloth later into the year and or topping to ensure you get fruit. And even then there is a risk that you're not going to get fruit because with anything that lands in that 100 to 120 day mark, or more, that's when it's time to get a little bit nervous. Now, the other one is actually pinching the side shoots. So we call these runners famously. And here's the thing, I've done several videos on whether or not you should be removing the runners. Personally, I will say it reduces the yield. Now, it also increases risks of a disease. So if you've got either one of those, then yes, remove the runners. But if you don't, typically speaking, I say leave the runners in place. And this is particularly true when we're talking about things that are determinate in nature. So Roma tomatoes, for example, are ones we never want to remove the runners on, as well as these early girls, Manitoba, subarctic plenties. All of these, we want to leave those runners in place because they are going to give us a bigger yield. However, when we're talking about things like brandy wines or Berkeley tie-dye, these are ones that you may actually want to remove the runners, maybe not the lower runners from earlier in the season, but for sure the runners that produce higher up because it's going to help to harness that energy back into the flowers and the fruit building, which is the necessary thing that has to happen, particularly when we're talking late July onwards. So the bottom runners you could leave, but as we get higher up into that plant, anything beyond 4 or 5 runners, it's time to actually get rid of those. Okay, so next up is your peppers for short seasons. These guys, here's the thing. I don't find it really difficult to grow the hots and the super hots, these I always find to have more than enough of. It's actually the sweeter ones that you tend to have issues with and tend to produce more poorly. So I think the fastest variety is the gypsy variety. This is around 60 to 65 days. It's sweet, fast maturing, and very prolific. There's also jalapenos in general, but there's specific varieties such as early jalapenos that land around 70-day mark, but jalapenos I generally don't find to have much issue with. However, if you do want higher yields, then that early jalapeno variety is the one you want to go with. Ace is a sweet bell pepper that is short, compact, and early. Doesn't have the highest yield. It's not going to knock it out of the park. However, if you're just looking for something to eat, it's definitely a good one to go with, particularly if we're talking container gardening. We have the Golden California Wonder, which is actually a cold hardy bell pepper, despite the name, oddly enough. And then we have the New Mix Twilight, which is actually ornamental, but also edible pepper. Now, here's the thing when it comes to peppers. These guys, I never plant in ground. I find whenever I plant peppers in ground, I get much lower yields and much sicker plants. That's why all peppers, regardless of them being bell peppers or hot peppers, they need to go into containers and preferably nothing too big because, again, we actually want to keep those roots relatively warm. When it comes to germinating of the seeds, they germinate best at somewhere between 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, which, by the way, for soil is warm. And the only way to achieve that in a cold climate is in a container. So, for example, if you were to use a 5-gallon pail, that is a good size to allow for proper heating and cooling. Now, if you go for something larger than that, you can expect lower yields because now there's more soil to warm. Some of my best results, hands down, were actually inside of the cloth pots. So just your classic, 5-gallon cloth pot as well as the 5-gallon pail buckets. So here's the thing. If you're looking to get really good results at night, you're going to want to look at covering both your tomatoes and your peppers. This can increase the temperatures by 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. And this is really important to remember because when your nighttime temps are hovering around 8, 9, then throwing that row cover on can be a great excuse to get those out of the greenhouse into the ground and have them performing well. Or maybe you're limited on space, then you need to get them in the ground ASAP, but you also want to make sure you're covering them at night. It doesn't have to be sophisticated. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be old bed sheets, but just that little bit can make a big difference. Next up is the type of mulch you use. There's various different kinds of mulch, and I could do a whole video just on the color of mulch and the type of mulch and what it does. So, for example, things like leaf mold mulch or straw mulch are used to retain moisture in the soil as well as cool the soil down. That's actually the opposite of what we want in a cool climate when it comes to tomatoes and peppers. So what you want to use is actually the black plastic mulch. This will increase the temperature of the soil, which is exactly where we want to land. I know you guys have all seen the black plastic mulch before. My only word of warning when it comes to this is that you need to make sure the irrigation is either below that black plastic mulch or alternatively, there is some sort of gap around the plant or a way in which the water can get into that soil profile and then use capillary action to spread out horizontally. The reason being is that they are heavily waterproof. And so you'll actually starve your plants out when it comes to soil moisture, which is not what we want. Now, this tip is actually kind of limited to those of you who plant in a really open space. So one of the downfalls of gardening in a cold climate and an open space is that wind can and will be very cool depending on what direction it's coming from. So the important part here is that you are placing the plants in a sheltered space, and you can use lots of different things to do this. It could be something that is physical, like a fence, or it could be actually shrubs or taller plants around that area. But you want to shelter that plant in some way to protect it against those winds because that can actually make a huge difference when it comes to the ambient temperature around it. So after you've got everything planted and you're beyond that 10 degrees Celsius mark at night, we then want to look at the time in which the plant is flowering. Once you're noticing flower buds forming, you really want to watch those temperatures. If you notice the nighttime temps going below 13 degrees Celsius, there is a very real possibility that your plant is going to drop the flowers. Last year, I experienced this tenfold. I had very late tomato harvest, and everything or all the flowers that produce lower or earlier in the season died off or plopped off pretty darn quick because he had these cooler nights. If I would have covered those plants when it got below that 13 degrees Celsius mark, even in July, a lot of flowers. I think I did a garden tour showing just how many I had lost, and they generally look sick or they literally just fall off into the soil, or the flower stem kind of looks yellowed and or like shriveled in a way. This is all signs of cool nights, and the only protection or fix to that is going to be covering those crops, which again seems silly if you're just putting a bed sheet on, but it can make a big difference to the plant. If you learned something new in today's video, or you want to check out some of my new videos that are coming out that are all, again, science-based, then you're going to want to, or if you want to check out my video I have coming out later this week about the $500 seed mistake I made, then be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, and Geek Crew, for those of you who are here as my trusty sidekicks, as much so as Ella is, I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.